Okay, I don't know why, but I'm having a little bit of butterflies in the stomach, which is a little bit rare for me because we keep anyways talking in front of the camera all the time. Maybe it is because I am surrounded by people who I look up to, people who are doing some very, very fundamentally revolutionary stuff, people who might just land up changing how the whole narrative is being woven in this country very systematically, very thoughtfully. And here are some of the people who are breaking that whole chain, that very carefully thought of narrative. Of course, there are challenges in trying to break a narrative which has taken years to build, crores of investment has been there. But somehow this world of YouTube has turned out to be this a little bit of a safe harbor. I don't know till what point of time, but for now, a little bit of a safe harbor for facts, for truth, for getting the stories out that perhaps the powers that be don't want to be discussed. And that's the space that has been created. Sometimes these stories actually lead to the mainstream media also focusing on the stories they otherwise wouldn't have. I want this to be a very conversational thing. I do not think that there is going to be too much of Man Ki Baat. It is going to be some of the comments, some of the suggestions, some of the questions that you guys have who are listening in. I would anyways have tons of questions. But I'll limit myself. If I see interesting questions come up, then I'll take that first. That's my priority here. But would like to begin with opening comments from each of the panelists as to what took them. And by the way, a lot of folks here have experienced mainstream media. So that's the commonality bit here. Nobody's native digital here. Mainstream media, mainstream communications, and then this path towards YouTube and finding an audience there, finding a purpose on YouTube. I want each of you to take a minute or two to explain exactly how this process went forward. Barkha, starting with you.
Thank you, Akash, and hi, everyone. I'm a purely mainstream journalist in my past life. In the sense, what I mean by that is that I didn't even come from a newspaper or some other form of media to television. I call myself a child of television. I was a first generation television journalist. So for me, in a way, my shift took place. For many people in this country, it's been the shift from print to TV. For me, the shift has been from TV to digital, from TV to YouTube. Three brief reasons. I won't go into sort of long stories about them, just to keep the sort of pace going. One is that YouTube offers me the opportunity to continue to remain a visual storyteller. That's why I mentioned being a child of television, because I like visual storytelling. I like reporting. I like using pictures. I like using the immediacy and intimacy of the visual medium. So moving to YouTube, while I had to develop a digital grammar, I could still stay with my visual storytelling love and skills. That was the first. Second, of course, deep disillusionment with the television industry, finding myself, after being a child of television, an absolute misfit in it, not liking what was happening to the industry, not liking what was happening to myself, remaining in that industry, felt that I too had staled and would have become perhaps just an also-ran had I stayed in television. And the third, I got sick of having bosses. I got sick of answering to people. In my midlife, you could call it a midlife crisis, decided that it was now or never. Even if and we're at MoJo, we're a small team. We're about 13 people. Of course we want to scale, but I think my feeling was that even if we're just a small team, it's my own. I will be answerable to myself. I will be answerable to my team. And I just didn't want a boss. So the combination, I continue to be video first, continue to be a visual storyteller. I didn't want to move, for example, to text. Our website is coming, but for me, it was very important to continue to have the emphasis on video, which YouTube allows you to do. Second, disillusion with TV and what was happening to me in TV. And third, wanted to be my own boss.
Okay, misfit, and I would say that is also a common thread here. Arfa, a lot of stuff that you do, and not in the derogatory way, would be a misfit. Because when I see the stuff that you do, when I see the stuff that Wire does, I mean, I can't even imagine in today's mainstream media stuff like that would get a position. So how much is the fact that you couldn't express yourself freely that led you to a digital platform, that led you to YouTube, Arfa?
So as you said, when I became completely misfit in the so-called mainstream media, I became a perfect fit when I realized when I came to the digital media. I thought we both were just made for each other. Trust me, I finally feel I have arrived home. This is where I should always have been, not just the digital media, even the people that I work with. So, me, Barkha, all the panelists here, we come from different identities, different backgrounds. Trust me, in the first 15 years of my life, I never felt I was at home, that I could be in my own skin. I always had to pretend to be someone else in order to be acceptable. And now finally I arrived at a place where everything was in synchrony with each other. And this is why when I speak, I don't speak as a representative of people, but I represent myself, because I am those people. I'm one of those people who are watching me. So having said that, what I want to say here is that I look at journalism from the prism of society and politics. So look at this whole structure. In brief, I would like to kind of put all into this. There's always been a struggle for the past 75 years on who will be finally allowed to speak, who will finally have the mic to speak, who will finally be able to have a voice, who will be allowed to go to school, to university, to parliament, to run their own businesses, to have a job. So this has been the struggle between the powerful and the powerless. Now, when we are on YouTube, I feel I am a powerless person who represents the voices of the powerless people. And together, minus plus minus becomes plus. So that is why I feel YouTube at the moment is the most powerful medium that is challenging the government of the day, that is challenging a narrative and a propaganda worth thousands and thousands of crore rupees. They do not go and raid and survey, Aaj Tak or Times Network or any other those big media networks. They don't need to survey them, but they need to survey us. They need to survey you. They need to survey News Laundry. They need to survey NewsClick. So what I'm trying to say is that here is this, section, a section of very powerless journalists who were literally thrown out of the mainstream media. I cannot imagine, Akash, someone like me with my identity, with my ideology, with my thought process, the journalism that I want to do. I cannot get a window in this entire universe of mainstream media. So I think we both are made for each other. And finally, we can claim our right on the freedom of expression, on having a voice, on having a space in democracy.
Fair enough. And it's fabulous that you mentioned about the power structures. And it's not a secret that it is the privileged, it is the upper class that was dominating the power structures. And I'm so happy that Ashok is also with us here. Ashok, when you are working now with the Dalit Dastak, is the power structure on YouTube? Because I'm asking this because I was also a misfit. I mean, nobody's going to touch satire, for example. I mean, they are going to say, I mean, there was a news channel that tried to do it, okay? And in the trial phase only, the whole experiment collapsed. So when Dalit Dastak is doing the kind of work that it is doing, are you feeling that finally you don't have to go through the system, crores of rupees, a news channel, licenses, dealing with people? Now you're being able to directly put that voice through across.
बिल्कुल. जैसे अभी एक मेन स्ट्रीम की बात हो रही थी, तो मुझे आज तक समझ में नहीं आया कि मेन स्ट्रीम का एग्जांपल हम कैसे सेट करें, कैसे समझे मेन स्ट्रीम को. सारे सीनियर लोग हैं यहाँ पे, बरखा मैम है, अल्फा मैम है, तमाम लोग सालों से काम कर रहे हैं. मुझे भी 15 साल हो गए. तो हम लोग जब पहले दिन हमने ज्वाइन करा था कहीं पे भी, किसी अखबार में, किसी चैनल में, तो हम वही काम कर रहे थे और आज भी हम वही काम कर रहे थे. तो क्या पता ये हम मेन स्ट्रीम से बाहर कब निकल गए, मुझे ये समझ में नहीं आता. दूसरी चीज कि जो असली मेन स्ट्रीम है, देश का मेन स्ट्रीम है, जो सोशल मीडिया है, जो डिजिटल मीडिया है, वो उस तक पहुंचता है जिसकी आवाज सचमुच में हम लोगों के सामने आनी चाहिए. बरखा मैम को मैं देखता हूं जिस तरह घूमती हैं, या फिर अल्फा मैम घूमती हैं, या फिर हम लोग भी जाते हैं, तो हम लोग उनके बीच में पहुंचते हैं जिनकी बातों को सुना जाना सबसे ज्यादा जरूरी है डेमोक्रेसी में. और वो बेस है, पिलर है वो देश का. भले ही हम उनको माने ना, जैसे माननीय कांशीराम हमेशा कहा करते थे कि दिखता तो ढक्कन है ना, और पेन का पूरा सिस्टम है ना कि ये बहुत खूबसूरत पेन है, 10,000 का है, 20,000 का है, लेकिन अगर उसकी स्याही हम निकाल के फेंकते हैं, उसका रिफिल हम निकाल के फेंकते हैं, उसकी निब तोड़ दें, तो उस पेन की कोई औकात नहीं होती। तो हम क्या है कि पेन के ढक्कन और पेन का जो स्ट्रक्चर है, इस पे बात करते हैं और उसी को मेन स्ट्रीम हमने मान लिया है, जबकि असली मेन स्ट्रीम जो है वो स्याही है, वो नीब है, जो 10 रुपए की, 5 रुपए की, 2 रुपए की होती है, जो उसके अंदर डली होती है। और हम तमाम लोग जो डिजिटल प्लेटफॉर्म पे काम कर रहे हैं वही स्याही हैं, और उन्हीं लोगों के बीच में पहुंचे हैं, अब पहुंचने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, उनकी बातों को सामने लेके आ रहे हैं, जिनकी बातों को सुना जाना सबसे जरूरी है। भले ही आज हम नहीं समझ पा रहे हैं, भले ही लाखों करोड़ों रुपए की जो मीडिया खड़ी हुई है उनकी बातों को नहीं सुन रही है, लेकिन एक ना एक दिन सुनना पड़ेगा, और कहीं ना कहीं लोगों ने सुनना शुरू कर दिया है। नहीं तो जो अप्रैल में जो SC/ST एक्ट के खिलाफ आंदोलन हुए थे, निश्चित तौर पे उसी की बात है। रोहित वेमुला को लेकर जिस तरीके से इंसाफ मिला था, वो डिजिटल मीडिया की ही ताकत थी, वो मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया की ताकत नहीं थी। और आज के वक्त में मुझे लगता है कि मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया वो गरीब तबका है जिस तक हम लोग पहुंचते हैं, और मेन स्ट्रीम जर्नलिज्म हम लोग कर रहे हैं।
अशोक, प्रॉब्लम तो यही है ना कि आप सुनना शुरू कर दिया है, स्याही की ताकत सामने आ रही है, इसीलिए तो सर्वे होने शुरू हुए हैं। तो उस पर हम आते हैं और चैलेंजेस पर आते हैं, क्योंकि जब सुनना शुरू हो जाएगा, मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया का स्ट्रक्चर टूटना शुरू हो जाएगा, उस पर सवाल उठना शुरू हो जाएगा, दैट इज व्हेन द प्रॉब्लम स्टार्ट्स टू हैपन टू द bigger powers. But before that, one very quick point I'm being told. Please, guys, let your comments also come in themediarumble.com/live. Themediarumble.com/live comment section pe you can leave your comments. I would be more interested in taking your comments. I mean, I anyways have tons of questions to the ladies and gentlemen here. Sujit is a different breed here. He is not a traditional journalist, not a mainstream journalist, and he lands up on YouTube and creates HW and is very successful, gets surveyed also. Sujit, what is this? I mean, we are people who slogged in mainstream, got disillusioned, and then did YouTube for whatever reasons. Barkha is doing her serious journalism, Arfa is doing her stuff, I am doing satire. Where did you land up? And is it possible for people, I'm not being derogatory here, outside people, to suddenly come up and create a successful network, not only a news channel, a network on YouTube?
You know, Akash, two things. All my life, मैं पैसे लिया हूँ. I have taken money to communicate for somebody. You know, and I've always been communicating for somebody else. All my life, 27 years in advertising. Okay. First time in my life, that at this age, I thought, nahi yaar, you know, I have to say something. Honestly, I wanted to talk. And obviously, I never got a platform. Earlier on, you know, I used to have line outside my office, you know, media guys. But when I wanted to talk, there was no other opportunity. And YouTube gave me that opportunity. And a lot of people like Barkha, people like Arfa, they were, in a way, I mean, though most of them are younger to me, but they were inspirations, you know, to speak, to talk their minds. You know, दो चीज थे आकाश, two things. You know, one is I didn't know what mainstream media is, or what television media is, or what print media is. So I was kind of liberated. मुझे इसका, I never knew what it was, and so what am I missing? I didn't know that. So a lot of things that you know, these experienced people and these stalwarts, when they say, I do not understand those things. It is new to me. So that liberated me to a certain extent, and of course, it had its own disadvantage when one talks about YouTube. But one huge advantage is when one wanted to speak. You know, Akash, I got an opportunity in YouTube, and I started speaking, and I was surprised that people, some of them, of course, started listening too. So, you know, that was kind of nice, you know, so it felt good. So that was my experience, to be very honest with you, Akash. Okay. This is my honest experience.
Okay. So we'll come, of course, to the challenges, but, you know, we are told not to be too negative in life. So before we come to the challenges, let's talk about the opportunities. Barkha, you are looked on by many people, including myself, when we were all starting our journalistic career. You've completely pivoted to digital. And I want to quickly throw this question to others also.
Mm-hmm.
I have always believed is that if more people come on YouTube, then how many people are you going to survey? How many people are you going to block? Unless and until you decide to become a China, where you shut down the entire system, the entire channel, YouTube itself. So to people who are aspiring at this point of time, and I'm sure you've answered this question millions of times as a TV journalist, but those who might be aspiring at this point of time, what is your advice to them going to be, who still know that, okay, there is no money, there is a lot of abuse, there would be systematic checks on them, but people who want to still do hardcore journalism or speak out or anything news related, maybe even satire, what is your view to them?
Well, I think that these 16 months of COVID, and usse bhi pehle, MoJo Story really started in the end of 2019, and it coincided with an eruption of news situations. There was the citizenship legislation, there was the Delhi riots, and then we were in COVID. So I found that after a few years of, I would say, middling performance on TV, I used to love being a reporter even when I was on TV, but I just wasn't reporting enough. Whole host of reasons for that, budget cuts, apne aap hi thoda ek staleness aa gaya tha. We can talk about that later. But I really reclaim, a lot of people have asked me in the last 2 years, is this Barkha 2.0? And I always say, no, this is Barkha 1.0. This is who I was. I just forgot who I was. I just forgot what I loved. So I was able to reclaim my life as a reporter with very little money. The COVID first wave, I literally traveled across India in a team of 4 people, one of whom was my driver. Right? He's as esteemed a colleague, but I'm saying he's not a production resource. He was just driving us.
You've extensively tweeted about him.
Yes, Vinod. And so we were 4 people with 2 phone units, complete units configured with tripods and lights and a proper professional mic. Yes, one old-fashioned broadcast camera on hire. That is all that we had. And we found that we were actually able to set the agenda on the exodus of the migrant workers just by relentlessly going to where the story is. And the other thing we discovered as a nerd was the disruptive power of technology. And I found that at the heart of what I was doing was reporting. But even in terms of, the shows that people had got accustomed to me doing or the interviews, I could do it from any part of the country, provided I had stable internet, right? And in some strange way, the fact that everybody had gone virtual during COVID offered this kind of level playing field opportunity, because you were not considered the bicharas if you sent a Zoom link instead of an OB-WAN. Right? So suddenly you were not the small player, and you were out there, and 50 days of that reporting forced the big media with all its money. मुझे तो अभी तक समझ ही नहीं आई. It is a mystery to me why television did not cover COVID from the ground. And I know that every time I say this, I get a volley of hate, and individual reporters cite their own stories. I'm not talking about the exceptional reporters. I know that in cities, and in all organizations, there would have been select individual reporters who would have done work in their stories. I'm talking, generally speaking, television covered COVID from behind a desk with experts. And some of us in the digital space set out. And because we set out, we were able to show कि आप कितने भी छोटी organization हो, आप agenda set कर सकते हैं. And there I agree with Ashok कि maybe ये जो लफ्ज है mainstream, इसको reclaim करने का समय आ गया है. जो journalism को power करता है, what drives journalism remains the same. I always tell young people, because today journalism has become gentrified, and I think that's killing it. And I always tell people who ask me, what do you need to be a journalist? And I say, if you do not live, breathe, eat, love this, don't join it. It's not for you. If you do not feel passion, if this is not the overriding thing on your mind when you go to sleep, this profession is not for you. I don't mean to undervalue your personality, but ये जो एक दिल का profession है. अगर आपका दिल इसमें नहीं है 24/7, आप मत आइए. तो वो जो कैरेक्टरिस्टिक है वो सब मीडियम्स अक्रॉस मीडियम्स होल्ड करती है. लेकिन डिजिटल का जो एडवांटेज है वो ये है कि टेक्नोलॉजी प्लस पैशन plus level playing field allows you to actually show off your reporting. You can be a great reporter and there's nobody to hold you back but yourself.
So this is I relate so well with it, is because I also tell youngsters, I say I'll give you 10 reasons why you should not become a journalist, and after listening to those 10 reasons, saying, okay, I still want to become a journalist. then okay, if you're so crazy, correct, then it's okay with you. But correct, of course, the other point is, and Barkha gets it, but I think Barkha, I think it's okay if you concede on this one. Arfa would get more hate than you. Arfa, it does just, you have, I mean, the kind of volley of abuses. I mean, of course, I'm the privileged one here. Guys don't get as kind, half, quarter, 1/10 women. I mean, how dare you? You're a woman and you are speaking. And of course, then there is their whole religious angle also. Arfa, for those who want to do this, मैंने खुद देखा है, there are so many people saying, we want to do this, but the abuse is too much. We don't want to talk. We don't want to speak out. और YouTube में तो अब्यूज डायरेक्ट हो जाता है. कम से कम मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया में अब्यूज से आप आइसोलेटेड तो है. आपके वीडियो और न्यूज चैनल और आपके बुलेटिन के नीचे अब्यूजेस तो नहीं दिखती है आपको. तो उस अब्यूज को कैसे हैंडल करते हैं, कैसे करना चाहिए, और जो न्यू कमर है, हाउ वुड यू टेल देम टू हैंडल अब्यूज?
आकाश, दे से कि मैं अकेला ही चला था जानिबे मंजिल मगर, मैं अकेला ही चला था जानिबे मंजिल मगर, लोग मिलते गए कारवां बनता गया. मंजिल की तरफ मैं अकेला चल रहा था. When I joined the wire, I'm not saying this was like the first thing on my mind that I can just go and I am one of those people, like Barkha said, she is a pioneer, but I also, right after that, I would say she is an A+ generation. So I'm like A generation. Right after a few years of Barkha, I'm also one of those people who entered TV news when TV news was opening up. This whole sky was becoming bigger. FDI was allowed in private news, and I was part of not just one but three launches of TV news channels. One was NDTV India, then Rajya Sabha TV, then there was yet another channel, and even in YouTube. So what is Barkha to TV news? I am that news. I am that to digital news, doing audio visual journalism on YouTube. And I'm like one of those very few people. So I feel this is an advantage. But why I brought up this whole कारवां thing is कि ये कारवां इतना बड़ा हो गया है. आपने अभी सवाल किया कि क्या हम चाइना बन जाएंगे और हम शट डाउन कर देंगे. आप यकीन जानिए करोड़ों लोग हैं who are stakeholders in what we do, we digital media people do. So when you're talking about all the hate, of course, sometimes I feel I've become thick-skinned and, I can take all of this on me, but then they stoop even lower and they go to an extent where it starts hurting. Then I feel, okay, my endurance has become even higher and I can take more. But this is no more about just some anonymous trolls. It's not about hate mails. It's not about death or rape threats. The real threat at the moment is coming from none other than the people who are ruling us. They're filing FIRs against us. So, this has become an existential thing. Trust me, I could have taken all of the troll pressure. I could have maybe done with all of the rape and death threats, etc. But when it comes to the most powerful people in this country looking at you, telling you कि आप तो YouTube के पत्रकार हैं, मतलब मुझे बोलते हैं लोग, देखो टीवी पे इतने अच्छे जर्नलिस्ट हैं, तुम क्या बन गए, तुम तो YouTube के पत्रकार. And the same people who vote and support and make the support network of our the ruling party, they tell us. So एक तरफ आप ये देखिए कि वो हमारे ऊपर पुलिस केसेस भी फाइल कर रहे हैं और दूसरी तरफ आपको बता रहे हैं कि you do not matter. So when people like me are attacked, we are attacked for a couple of reasons. I would say 3 reasons primarily. One, that you are a Muslim. 2, that you are a woman. And 3, that you do the journalism that is not liked by the people who rule us. So basically, when they reduce me to my identity, they tell people, do not take her for a journalist. ये जर्नलिस्ट वाले कुछ नहीं है, ये तो सिर्फ मुसलमान है. अरे इसको छोड़ो ना, ये जो बोल रही है ये कोई पत्रकारिता नहीं है. इसको सिर्फ ये देखो कि ये मुसलमान है. And the moment you say this to people, that look at this woman, she's not a journalist, she's not an Indian, she's not your neighbor or fellow citizen, she's just a Muslim, a nira Musalman. So what they try to do with this is they try to discredit my work. They try to reduce the impact of my work. What they don't know is that even the ordinary work that I do, and I feel, there's nothing extraordinary about what I do. I've been doing this for the last 20 years. I continue to do the same thing. It is just the context has changed. So what they do is that they actually indirectly amplify my work. They make me more powerful, because when the powerful people attack you, you become more powerful. My father used to say this, he says कि तुमको बड़ा बनना है तो बड़े लोगों की मुखालफत शुरू करो, उनका विरोध शुरू करो. So you come, आप उनके आमने सामने आके खड़े हो जाते हैं. So one, it is nearly impossible to shut you, me, Barkha, Sujit ji, our fellow, all of these people shut down. It's impossible because this is not just me, it is not just them, it is millions of us now. मेरे पास hate भी ऐसे messages भी आते हैं कि आरफा जी, I'm writing this at 3 a.m. If you're feeling low because of all this hate, because all of these attacks, just trust me, you're my voice. If you are not there tomorrow, I will feel voiceless. तो मैं उन 1000 ट्रोल्स के प्रेशर से परेशान नहीं होती हूँ. मैं हर सुबह उठती हूँ because I feel what I'm doing is important. I don't know. I mean, I may be beating my own drum and I may be feeling this whole, misplaced sense of myself that my work is important. But if this was not for this, even if misplaced, I'm saying, even if this was not for all of this, trust me, I would have maybe मैं खत्म कर दी जर्नलिज्म, कोई मिठाई की दुकान खोल लेती,
नहीं, आई कंप्लीटली,
डॉक्टर ने नहीं बोला आपको कि जर्नलिज्म करना जरूरी है आपकी बीमारी ठीक करने के लिए, यू कुड हैव डन जस्ट एनीथिंग एल्स.
आई कंप्लीटली एग्री विद दिस. वो हमारे स्कूल में रियूनियन हुआ तो वो कुछ पुराने टीचर्स को बुलाया गया जो हमारे टाइम पे पढ़ाती थी, एंड वन ऑफ द टीचर्स वाज शी वाज अ टेरर एंड शी वाज अ क्लास 5 टीचर. And she comes, I mean, abhi bhi dekh ke thoda sa dar lag jayega. And she came up to me and very gently, whispered into my ear that I'm very, very proud of what you're doing and what you have turned out to be. Maine kaha, boss, bring 100 trolls after this. My class 5 teacher is telling me that she's proud of what I'm doing. Dude, to khatam kar dete hain. But anyways, Ashok.
Akash, bas ek last cheez I want to tell you. There were a couple of people who told me when they watch my programs, they make sure nobody is watching them watching my programs. You know what it
Correct.
means?
Yes.
Like
yes.
in offices, in office setups, if somebody is watching my program, which means just by watching my programs, you become an anti-national. So nobody wants to kind of, make themselves a misfit. Barkha may be a misfit, I am a misfit, and we feel proud of the fact that we are a misfit because we are unique and we couldn't become a part of the crowd. And I can say, at least for myself, I am proud of this fact. But people, regular log offices में काम करें, तो वो मेरे शो भी चुपचाप देखते हैं थोड़ा सा कि कोई और ना देख रहा हो कि प्रोग्राम देख रहे हैं मेरे.
नहीं, हम जैसे एंटी नेशनल्स ने बहुत सारे फैमिली ग्रुप्स में भी झगड़े करवाए हैं जब हमारे वीडियो सर्कुलेट हुए हैं. ये काफी कॉमन कंप्लेंट आता है. अशोक, आपने जब हम लोग अभी जब सेटअप कर रहे थे तो आप ये भी बोल रहे थे कि अब बात डिजिटल पर आ चुकी है, लेकिन और ये मेरा भी ग्राउज रहा है. मैं जब एक छोटा सा किताब लिख रहा था मीडिया पर, तो मैं भी पहले यही सोचता था एज अ वेरी यंग एम्बिशियस जर्नलिस्ट की नहीं, अच्छा काम करेंगे तो लोग देखेंगे. आज हमारे पास डिजिटल की ताकत है, आज लो कॉस्ट में जर्नलिज्म हो सकती है, लेकिन सवाल और वेदर माइनॉरिटी इश्यूज हो या लेस प्रिविलेज इश्यूज हो, द फैक्ट इज कि आज वो चीजें दर्शाई जा सकती हैं. लेकिन अशोक, दलित दस्तक में आपने ये काम करके एक चीज मुझे बताइए ऑनेस्टली, सुनने वाले हैं या नहीं है? क्योंकि मैं एक चीज कहता हूं, यहां देश फकीरी प्रो मैक्स पे बैठा हुआ है. जो चीजों से उन्हें 5-8 साल पहले फर्क पड़ता, वो रास्ते पे उतरते आज उन्हें फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. तो ये चैलेंज है या नहीं है? आपके पास टेक्नोलॉजी आ गई, सोच लीजिए रेड भी नहीं पड़ रहा है, सर्वे भी नहीं हो रहा है, तब भी लोग सुनेंगे क्या?
हाँ, बिल्कुल सुनेंगे. और देखिए, इसको 2 तरीके से हमें समझना होगा. जैसे मैंने एक वक्त में एक सीरीज की थी पूरे वीक, और उस वीक में मैंने जो भी दलित कम्युनिटी के लोग थे जो बाहर पढ़ाई कर रहे थे या फिर एस्टैब्लिश थे, मैंने उनका शो किया 1 हफ्ते तक कि और लोग जो इस कम्युनिटी के जाना चाहते हैं वो कैसे बाहर जाके पढ़ाई कर सकते हैं, स्कॉलरशिप कैसे मिलेगी और कैसे दोनों कनेक्ट हो सकते हैं. अगर मैं खड़े होके किसी को गाली देता, किसी के खिलाफ बातें करता, तो मुझे 1 लाख व्यूज मिल जाते. लेकिन उस वीडियोस को 10,000 20,000 लोगों ने देखा. लेकिन वहां हमें ये समझना होगा कि उन 10,000 लोगों में से अगर 10, 50, 100 लोग भी मेरे उस वीडियोस को देख के और कनेक्ट होते हैं एक दूसरे से और कोशिश करते हैं, और 10 लोग भी 100 लोग भी पहुंच जाते हैं और उनको हेल्प मिलती है उनसे, तो वो इम्पोर्टेंट है. उस 1 लाख व्यूज से ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है मेरे लिए, क्योंकि उससे 100 लोगों की जिंदगी बदल गई ना, तो फैमिलीज की जिंदगी बदल गई. तो हमें ये भी देखना होगा कि हाँ, किस तरीके से हमें काम करना चाहिए. और जो बात हो रही थी कि विरोध और तमाम चीजों की, हम यहाँ हैं तो हमें पता है कि विरोध होना है. हमें पता है कि कब कास्ट के ऊपर विरोध होगा, कब आपके मुस्लिम होने पे विरोध. फर्क नहीं पड़ना चाहिए. मुझे तो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता। इसलिए नहीं पड़ता फर्क क्योंकि मुझे पता है कि वो लोग कौन हैं और वो करेंगे ही करेंगे। अगर उनको आरफा जी का विरोध करना है, बरखा मैम का विरोध करना है, मेरा करना है, तो वो करेंगे ही। तो जो हमें पता है कि ये करेंगे, उनसे उनके बारे में क्यों सोचना और डिस्टर्ब करना खुद को। हमें पता है, मेरे पास अभी आपके पास भी फोन आते होंगे और तमाम लोग ये बताते हैं कि वो अब चैनल्स नहीं देखते। निश्चित तौर पे वो रात को 1-2 घंटे उनका फिक्स है कि वो यूट्यूब ही देखते हैं। और ये नहीं कि एक आदमी का देखते हैं, वो मेरा देखेंगे, मेरे बाद फिर वायर पे जाएंगे उसका शो देखेंगे, फिर बरखा मैम पे जाएंगे उसका शो देखेंगे। तो सबको बारी बारी से वो 2 घंटे यही काम करते हैं। उनको ये मतलब नहीं है कि किसी और ने अपने चैनल में बैठ के क्या बोला। और जो एब्यूजेस की बात हो रही थी, लोग करते हैं, करने दीजिए। बड़े बड़े चैनल पे तो लाइव ये हो रहा है, हमारे तो कमेंट बॉक्स में आके लोग करते हैं, है ना। तो उससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, करने दीजिए। वो है ही, उनका काम ही है ये करना, उनको करने दीजिए। हमारा काम है खबरों को दिखाना, जो खबरें जरूरी है उसको दिखाना, और वो हम करते रहेंगे।
Okay. Let me now go to Sujit. Or Sujit, this is a question that I'm asking you is because in my limited opinion, I think you are the most business savvy person here because you understand the world of business as well. And now you're doing it on YouTube and you have people working. It's not only a one-man operation. You have even, of course, Wire is also a complete organization. But Sujit, is it viable now? See, one-man person organization, I can understand. I am doing it. I can understand that, it takes less, so you can exist in less. But if you have to become bigger and you have to sustain more people and you have to have an organization, multiple offices, different cities, bureaus, anchors, Sujit, is it the future? Can it be a sustainable model?
Akash, let me tell you something. Digital will be the only media that builds a community. As we go along, television will build viewers. It will build viewers, it can get you reach, but digital, as we go along, will build communities. And for an advertiser, a community is going to be the important thing because community is where you influence. So end of the day, as much as the mainline television channels want to get into digital platforms, it will never take, it can never offset a digital channel. Mainline channel will remain a mainline channel, and a digital channel is ultimately the channel that's going to dominate YouTube and other OTT platforms. See, it's like this, Akash, ये जो इडली वड़ा है ना, इडली वड़ा चाइनीज रेस्टोरेंट में जाके लोग नहीं खाते. मतलब खाना है तो खा सकते हैं, isn't it? पर नहीं खाते लोग, because that's how consumers react. So therefore, when you get into YouTube, they wouldn't prefer to see an NDTV or, with all respects to all channel, NDTV or Dastak or whatever, they would prefer to see a Wire, they would prefer to see a MoJo, or they would prefer to see a HW. They would not prefer to see an NDTV. 99%. Now it is happening because the culture is setting in. The most important point that I want to make is finally, these same advertisers who are shunning us and possibly scared of us. Akash, let me tell you something. I came in from advertising and I've got a lot of friends in advertising. Like I said, that has been my life. So when I started off my channel, I thought, yaar, 2 phone call pe mere ko advertising aa jayenge, yaar, and I could call up my friends and say, yaar, ad de, yaar, and I would get it. You know what happened? I didn't get a single ad. And why didn't we get a single ad? We didn't get an ad is because the advertisers were scared to put their into our channel. Not so much so, Akash, that there was a person, a friend of mine again, who told me, yaar, paise le le tu yaar, but my ad, mere brand mat dalna wahan par. Okay, so you know what I'm saying? But all this is going to change. End of the day, finally, it'll come to a stage, and I stick my neck out, I bet on this. It'll come to a stage in the next 2 to 3 years, wherein you will see that advertisers would prefer a digital channel. And that is purely because digital channel creates community. See, Wire has created a community. MoJo is creating a community. We in our own small way trying to create a community. I'm sure Ashok is creating a community. See, this community is not only logging on to a Barkhadat program or a Arfas program or these programs to kind of know what the news is. They are there to understand what their view is, and based on their view, they are forming their own, which means that is a direct definition of being an influencer. And if that channel, if their channel can manage to create influencers, the channel can be influencers, and the channel can create community, believe me, this is going to be one of the most viable media in the next 5 years in India. Trust me on this one.
Okay. We've already started getting questions, but I just want to quickly do one quick round on the challenges. And I'll tell you why it is very important for us to talk about the challenges, is because when you see something being demolished in front of you, when you see something being taken down in front of you, it is better to at least talk about it. And that's why we, surveys, etc., etc. But very quickly, Barkha, having discovered YouTube, having yourself, again, as you're saying, Barkha 1.0, this is what I wanted to do, now I'm getting to do. Are you seeing very clear and present dangers? Because it seems that within a very short period of time, a lot of people are paying us, fringe tha. Sorry, use the word fringe. But I mean, who cares? I mean, you guys bhaukte raho as a very common comment. Tum log bhaukte raho YouTube mein. To yaar bhaukne do. But now it seems हमारे YouTube में भौंकने में भी problem है, because all sorts of IT regulations are coming in, surveys are coming in. So Barkha, are you very confident of growth in your newfound freedom?
Look, there are three angles to this. I agree with Sujit that the distinction from digital and television is the creation of communities. And to that extent, it's a more intimate space. There is something intimate about, I sometimes see even the crazy people. When I say crazy, I mean the people who come to troll every evening when I do my program, they come every evening. Even they're part of the community. I recognize their names. I know my trolls. Like I want to write a book, I know my trolls, right? Like roz sham ko aate. So there is a community in which even your worst detractors are habituated to, they miss you if they can't attack you. So ये बात सुजीत की बिल्कुल ठीक है. लेकिन there are two challenges. One is the regulatory challenge that the government is certainly moving in that direction. What is it doing? It has made fundraising from outside India nearly impossible, because foreign direct investment at 26% is subject to the approval of the government, which it never used to be, which means the government will only approve what it wants to. Point one. Point two, it is weighing down very small organizations, startups, in a web of bureaucratic requirements, जिसके लिए आपको लोग hire करने पड़ेंगे, आपका energy distract होगा, आपके पैसे जाएंगे, resources जाएंगे, जो आपकी startup stage में already limited है. So this is the external issue. The third external issue is that, and I hope Sujit is right, but the fear of anything overtly contentious, the advertising fears that, right? Advertising wants to be safe, it wants to sit in the middle. So, but I think there are ways around it, and without compromising. And the ways around it is that, even when we were in television channels, how do television channels make money? Their revenue model is totally broken. They also make money by doing some soft stuff where sponsors will attach themselves, some, what are they called? Telethons, some advertorials. अखबार वाले कैसे पैसे बनाते हैं? 4 पेज सरकारों की ads front page पे छाप के, जिसमें flyover wrong हो जाता है. So the point is that, irrespective, we make too much of this digital में पैसा कहाँ से आएगा? आप प्लीज मुझे बताइए, टेलीविजन और अखबारों में कहाँ से पैसा आता है? It's government advertising or private advertising. So we are not wrong in seeking some section of that advertising and perhaps creating intelligent programming that a sponsor may be comfortable with and using that money to subsidize your journalism. That's one. But what I want to say is that eventually, and there is no escaping this, one, thank you, YouTube, for giving us this platform, but you've got to give us more share of the advertising that you earn off us. We haven't spoken about that enough. We get a certain percentage, we need more of it. Yeah. And secondly, subscribers, audience has to start paying thoda bahut at least for the content. And my last point, I heard you say, Akash, ki kya hum log bhi bureaus khol payenge, reporters laga payenge. We've got to not make the mistakes television made. You've got to understand, I can do a show with 3 people that used to take 15 people with the same quality. And we cannot go back to those 15 people studios, those 15 people teams. Television itself has closed down bureaus. We can't go in that direction. We've got to be frugal and spend on the stories that really matter and be frugal otherwise. वो गलतियां नहीं करनी जो टीवी ने करके अपना revenue model तोड़ दिया.
Okay, fair enough. Arfa, very quickly, Wire always is on the edge. I see those requests for funding that we are falling short of funds this month. We are behind. Wire is also not a very small organization. It invests heavily into reportage. तो ये सस्टेनेबल मॉडल बन पाएगा? इम्पैक्ट तो है, मान लिया.
I think आकाश सस्टेनेबल मॉडल बन गया है. I mean, not ban paega, but ban gaya hai. I'll give you an example. The salary that I was drawing in 2010, the same amount of money is now I'm earning in 2021. Now look at the inflation, look at where we have, reached from that point in time, 11 years. So, which means that all of this has been static. And I understand the fact that I work for a non-profit. I understand the amount of money that I used to earn when I was 25. My relatives who were professors, they used to envy me and they felt that I did not deserve the money that I was earning. And I think they were right. Now I realize they were right. So it is some kind of a leveler. The amount of money that I earn now, I can just kind of run myself. So there will be challenges. There are challenges that if I was the only earning member in my family, would I have been able to continue with the same amount of money? Would I have been able to, put food on the table? I doubt, but if it was possible. So I think I may be privileged that there are not just one, maybe more than one people who are earning members of my family. So I may be able to do it, but I cannot certainly say this for Ashok Dasji or Sujit or Barkha also runs a whole team. So I'm saying individually, if I talk about myself, I may be a privileged person, but as for the Wire, for the organization, I feel we have to now present ourselves as individuals and also as organizations. Like the new plan that we are building now is to give a breakdown of, let's say, if tomorrow I will be going to cover UP elections. So I'm going to tell my viewers, I'm going to cover these 5 districts. This is going to cost me 1.5 lakh, me and one more member of my crew. So who all are there to fund my reportage? So besides the people who give us recurring donations and contributions, and there are thousands and thousands of people now, in 1 year, there are more than 50,000 people who are contributing, individuals and different recurring donations. So that model is already successful. It is already working. It is just that we cannot be those people who we used to be earlier. So it's also a kind of a leveler. That, when you become a voice of the marginalized people, you also have to live a very modest life. You cannot absolutely live the kind of life that you were living earlier. Like I have hosted programs and I have anchored from one of the most expensive studios in the history of TV news. But here I am now sitting with a table and chair and talking to you, and this is exactly how I do my show. So this is empowering, definitely. But at the same time, I think this model is already working, and we have to find newer ways to engage this community of people. That's a fantastic word that Sujit ji has suggested, and I feel there couldn't have been any more intimate relation between a journalist and journalist viewer community. It is a community, and that community is now a stakeholder in what I do. So they value what we do at The Wire. They value, and I'll give you an example. So there are students from, let's say, Jharkhand, a Dalit girl, texting me and commenting on my YouTube comment section saying, आरफा जी आपको 100 रुपए, मैं छात्र हूँ, मुझे जो है 500 रुपए पॉकेट मनी मिलता है, मैं आपको अक्सर 100 रुपए मैं दे देती हूँ इसलिए क्योंकि आप दलितों के मुद्दे उठाती हैं, आप आदिवासियों के मुद्दे उठाती हैं, आप मेरी बात करती हैं. When you speak, I feel I am speaking. You have the platform, I don't have the platform. So in you, I see myself. And I value so much that woman, that girl, young girl who's giving me 100 rupees out of that 500 rupees she has.
True.
We may fool ourselves as much as we want to that, the issues of the marginalized were covered earlier. Trust me, there were no mainstream news channels and newsrooms which took into account the issues, the Adivasis, the marginalized, the farmers, the religious minorities. आप दलितों की बात करिए तो कहते हैं जातिवाद फैला रहे हैं. आप मुसलमानों की बात करें, ईसाइयों की बात करें तो कहते हैं आप तो सांप्रदायिक हैं. So, our very valid issues, which really deeply concerned us as marginalized people, now those people have a platform. So they are going to be eventually the stakeholders who will make us, who will sustain us, and we will together proceed in this journey. We
Fair
will
enough.
together strengthen the
मैं
democracy.
यही सवाल आगे ले जाता हूं बिकॉज वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट द मार्जिनलाइज्ड और दलितों के इशू के बारे में जो बात हो रही है, एंड आई थिंक दैट डिजिटल का सबसे बेस्ट तो ऑब्वियसली लेवलर है. चंदन रॉय का एक सवाल है, एंड अशोक आप इसको जरा अगर जवाब दे पाए. चंदन पूछ रहे हैं, बेसिकली मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है दैट व्हाई हैव वी हैव बिकम सो अलूफ विद प्रॉब्लम्स दैट वी आर फेसिंग ड्यू टू मिसरूल ऑफ द रूलिंग पार्टी, एंड हम लोग ना प्रोटेस्ट करते हैं, ना अपने माने बाय एंड लार्ज ना आवाज उठाते हैं. तो अगर आज दलित दस्तक के पास एक प्लेटफॉर्म भी है और आपने न्यूज दे दिया, लेकिन अगर उस न्यूज पे कोई रिएक्ट ही नहीं कर रहा है, तो उसका जवाब क्या है? ऐसा क्या कर सकते हैं डिजिटल के माध्यम से कि लोग थोड़ा सा जगे? तो
इसमें सबसे बड़ी चुनौती यही होती है कि जैसे हम बात कर रहे थे संसाधनों की कि क्या दिक्कतें आती हैं. 10 साल पहले मैंने दलित दस्तक मैगजीन शुरू की थी और आज तक मैं कंटिन्यू कर रहा हूँ. अभी मेरी टीम में सिर्फ मैं हूं और मेरा कैमरामैन है. सिर्फ 2 लोग काम करते हैं. हमारे पास कोई बहुत बड़ी टीम नहीं है ना, कोई बहुत फंड नहीं है. मैं जर्नलिस्ट था, मुझे समझ में आया कि मुझे अम्बेडकरिज्म के लिए काम, और मुझे लगा कि एज ए अम्बेडकर राइट है ना, मैं क्या दे सकता हूँ अपनी सोसाइटी को. मैं जर्नलिस्ट था, मैंने कहा कि मैं लिखूंगा इस सोसाइटी के लिए, मैं इस सोसाइटी की बात उठाऊंगा. मैं ये सोचता कि मुझे कोई बहुत बड़ा आदमी मिल जाएगा जो मुझे फंड करेगा, 10 लोगों की टीम देगा, तो शायद आज तक मैं नौकरी कर रहा होता. तो जैसे बात हो रही थी ना कि एक जुनून चाहिए, पागलपन चाहिए कि आपको करना है तो करना शुरू कर दिया. अब हम लोग रिपोर्ट करते हैं और बहुत बार चीजों को बार बार दिखाते हैं ताकि उस पर रिएक्शन हो, लेकिन एक्चुअली एक जर्नलिस्ट एक्टिविस्ट होते हुए भी पूरी तरीके से एक्टिविस्ट नहीं हो सकता. वहां पे जो सोशल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जिम्मेदारी है कि वो लगातार उन मुद्दों को उठाते रहें. जैसे शाहीन बाग में जो हुआ, वहां लोग डटे रहे तो हम रिपोर्ट करते रहे. ठीक है, हम वहां जाके धरना नहीं कर सकते ना. किसानों का आंदोलन है तो किसान डटे हुए हैं तो हम रिपोर्ट कर रहे हैं. ठीक है, हम किसानों की जो आवाज है, हम हल लेके और ट्रैक्टर लेके पार्लियामेंट नहीं घेर सकते, है ना. तो ये देखना होगा, तो लोगों को समझना होगा कि हम रिपोर्ट करते हैं, उसको बेहतर तरीके से कर सकते हैं, 1-2 बार फॉलो अप ले सकते हैं.
बिल्कुल सही बात है अशोक. ये लाइन डिस्टिंक्शन करना बड़ा जरूरी है, क्योंकि एक अपेक्षा बन जाती है कि नहीं आप रिपोर्ट कर रहे हो तो आप भी करो, आप भी एक्टिविस्ट हो. वो एक्टिविस्ट और जर्नलिस्ट का लाइन बहुत क्लियरली डिमार्केट करना चाहिए. बहुत सही बात बोली. बरखा, आई अंडरस्टैंड यू हैव टू लीव, सो I'll put this question to you because you are the best person to answer this. Ajay Sharma is saying, it's a question to everybody, but I'm asking you, Barkha, because you can answer this. What is the future news as it exists? We're talking about traditional, huh? You're the best person to answer this. What is the future of TV news as it exists today? Not necessarily right wing, left wing, etc., etc. And 2, when can we have interactive news? You're saying two-way communication that can decide the course of a story or how the story should be covered impromptu.
I'll take the second part first. I think news is already interactive. The conversations around news are interactive, but I am very hesitant with my audience telling me कि आप इस स्टोरी को इस तरह कवर करिए. And I'll tell you why. Not because मैं better जानती हूँ और आप लोग नहीं जानते, but because sometimes the pressure to be popular means that a journalist will never step out of a dominant narrative. आपको इतनी वो adulation चाहिए कि आप कुछ uncomfortable चीज बोलेंगे ही नहीं, दिखाएंगे ही नहीं, और आप ना अपने आप की थिंकिंग को पुश करेंगे ना अपनी ऑडियंस को. आपका काम है एज अ जर्नलिस्ट to first unlearn your own assumptions. रोज सीखो, अपनी assumptions को challenge करो और अपनी audience की assumptions को challenge करो. इसलिए I'm a bit hesitant. While I like conversations or I like feedback, sometimes I even engage with my trolls. I learned over the years not to. I don't think that I should be necessarily hearing what my audience wants and only showing that or framing a story or an issue in that way. Future of TV news, I expect there to be consolidation. I simply do not see these number of channels surviving. TV will only survive where big business puts money behind it. There is no other revenue model that will or can finance television. The audience will become more aware that these are channels funded by business houses and not by any other model. And I think that you will see a complete generational shift. It's already happening. You will see older people still surfing television, and you will see television relevant when something gigantic happens that digital doesn't have the scale for. So, right, so if, for example, let's say the 9/11 towers go down, that's an event, but for which maybe digital would find it immediately difficult to get everything on one platform. That is different, by the way, from covering a big story. COVID was the biggest story of our time, of our lifetime, and digital did a million times better job than anyone in television. लेकिन जब वो कुछ event oriented चीज होती है जिसमें scale चाहिए होता है, उसमें TV का relevance होगा. मुझे लगता है TV will also move increasingly towards digital, जो आप already देख रहे हैं. TV is going to move into a digital first model, and those of us who were here first will then be able to compete with it, I believe, on a level playing field, because we will have intimate relationships with our audience that TV would not.
Okay. Barkha, if you have to leave, then you can drop out, but I really appreciate you joining us. I'd like to take a few more questions.
Sure. I'm so sorry. I have an interview to schedule, so I've got to run. Thank you, Akash, and thank you, everybody, and thanks to the audience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll of course carry on because I'll just take that question what Barkha was talking about to Arfa. Ayush Yadav is asking, what are the challenges unique to digital media agencies? Like one instance or one thing that you miss most from when you worked in a large legacy media. Arfa, you've worked in legacy media. You're working in sort of a bootstrap digital, very daring organization. कुछ miss होता है क्या?
I do miss the live newsroom. I miss that 24 hours, that frenzy, that craziness that I used to hate earlier, but I miss that now. I feel that we should be able to arrive at a point where I can create. I had multimedia department of The Wire, and I dream of a day when I can create the Wire TV. So I hope to reach and arrive at a day when I have enough funds and enough people, at least a team of, let's say, 30 or 40 people, to just be given to the Wire TV. And I hope all of my listeners and my audience and also my future investors are listening to this, that I have this deep-seated dream in me that I will be able to run a YouTube 24 hours channel, because you cannot absolutely, understate. You cannot understate the value of 24/7 news. So like even now, I do one show a day, right? But whenever news breaks, trust me, my heart beats, Akash. I want to go live. I want to turn my whole, sleepy video department that is used to doing, shooting the program, then editing it and then putting it out. I just want all of them to turn into these live pieces that they have come in synchrony with me, and all of us can go live. So, that dream in me of being able to cover news the way I had covered for 15, 20 years, I want that. I have that in me. I don't know I would be able to successful or not, but it's so good to have a dream, to aspire for something than not having a dream.
No.
अशोक जी क्या कविता है वो? सबसे बुरा होता है सपनों का मर जाना, दुष्यंत कुमार की कविता है. हाँ, तो मेरे पास एक सपना है. I have a dream. And that dreams, makes me wake up every day and work for it. And someday, inshallah, we will be able to have that Wire TV where there will be a 24/7 YouTube news channel.
I'm sure, because there are many 24/7 YouTube news channels already in America, Young Turks. तो वो बिल्कुल है, and it will be successful. बताइए अशोक, go ahead.
मैं ये कहता आपका, मैं बहुत परेशान होने की जरूरत नहीं है. और इसमें एक डिजिटल की भी एक ब्यूटी है. देखिए, जब आप न्यूज रूम से निकल के एक तो लोगों के बीच में कम जाना हो पाता है, और जब आप पहुंचते भी होंगे ना, तो लोग आपके पास आने से हिचकते होंगे. आज ना आप और हम सीधे कनेक्ट हो पाते हैं. आज बंदा डरता नहीं है हमारे पास आने से. पहले वो डरता था कि यार इतना बड़ा आदमी है, इतने बड़े चैनल पे बैठ रहा है. उसको लगता है कि हाँ, अब वो आके बताता है आपकी ये रिपोर्ट अच्छी लगी, आपको ये करना चाहिए. वो आपको मैसेज भेजने में हिचकता नहीं है. ये ब्यूटी भी है हमारे काम की.
बहुत अच्छा है. मतलब पहले देखिए, न्यूज एंकर्स पहले ना इनएक्सेसिबल पीपल, दे वर कंसिडर्ड कि हम कोई देवता लोग हैं. मतलब ये हमारी प्रजा है,
दूसरी दुनिया के लोग हैं, दूसरी दुनिया के लोग.
हाँ, तो ऊपर से हम फूल बरसाते हैं, मतलब ऊपर से हम खबर बरसाते हैं. एंड दिस इज हाउ इट वाज कंसिडर्ड दैट व्हाट वी से इज आकाशवाणी, एंड दैट इज व्हाई द क्रेडिबिलिटी वाज सो हाई दैट व्हाटएवर वी सेड वाज कंसीडर्ड सम काइंड ऑफ एन आकाशवाणी. मेरे पास, मैं फील्ड में जाती हूँ, मेरे पास लोग आके कहते हैं आपको गले लगा सकते हैं. स्पेशली इन दिस NTC NRC मूवमेंट, आई डोंट रिमेंबर हाउ मेनी पीपल, how many women I hugged. I literally hugged them because they wanted to hug me.
आकाश, मेरे साथ एक बहुत ही बेहतरीन घटना हुई, मैं बताता हूँ. एक्चुअली मेरे पास कार नहीं थी, तो हम लोग घूमते थे. तो एक दिन मेरे एक जानने वाले ने कहा कि अशोक जी, मैं ना आपको एक कार देना चाहता हूँ अपनी. सेकेंड हैंड है, लेकिन आप इतना घूमते हैं, आपको परेशानी होती होगी ना, बारिश में जाना है, धूप में जाना है, कैमरा लेके आप लोग कैसे घूमते हैं। तो उन्होंने मुझे गिफ्ट की थी अपनी सेकेंड हैंड कार। तो ये जब आप चैनल में बैठे होते हैं ना, तो कोई आके आपसे पूछता नहीं है, लेकिन वहां चूंकि लोग कनेक्ट करते हैं ना आपसे कि हमारी बात कर रहा है, ये हमारे लिए जरूरी है, तो आपको सपोर्ट करने के लिए कुछ लोग आते हैं। तो वो तो जो
ये जो कार की बात हुई है, ये एक और सवाल पे ले जाता है मुझे। प्रणय राणे पूछ रहे हैं, और सुजित इनका जवाब दीजिए जरा। प्रणय कह रहे हैं कि ये जो आप लोग इतने एंटी करारे चने हैं, करारे चने, ये आप लोग व्हाई आर यू सो ब्लाइंड टू गुड मनी है? अरे पैसे भी तो आ सकते थे। सो व्हाट इज दिस मोटिवेशन ऑफ बीइंग अ जर्नलिस्ट? क्योंकि मैं चाहता हूं कि सुजित इसको आंसर करे, क्योंकि एक बहुत बड़ी गलतफहमी ये है कि यहाँ सब पैसे में लोट पोट रहे हैं यूट्यूब में आके। तो सुजित प्लीज जरा इकोनॉमिक्स जरा समझाइए यहाँ।
I'll tell you, as on today, Akash, I don't think any one of us in the channel, any one of us as far as YouTube channels are concerned, is making money. But let me also tell you, Akash, which is what I wanted to, kind of, say when Barkha was there, because what she said, you see, I have seen the transition from newspaper to television. I was a young advertising executive when we used to spend around 68 to 70% of advertising money on print, and around 22% on hoardings and outdoor, and around 7 to 8% of money was spent. So spending money on television was not taken very seriously. It was just that, shoot करने को मिलता है, actual film shoot करने को मिलता है, तो हम excited में वो करते थे, लेकिन वो हमको ये नहीं मालूम था उसका result क्या है. Cut to 2014, we spent around 86% of advertising money on television, and around 6 to 8% on press, and बाकी जो 12-13% बचता है वो होर्डिंग में. ये जब what all Arfa said, what all Ashok said, all this is tantamounting to the fact that look at how an audience react to them. Look at how that community, this is exactly what I was trying to say, community built by YouTube. Look at how the community is reacting to them. Look at how they're adored. Look at how the people react to them. The fact is, this is a temporary phenomena for us, Akash. Believe me, tomorrow, I know how advertisers think. Advertisers को भी धंधा करना है उनका ही. They too need to get their products sold. If they are not with us, they will be seen as against us. You see, so somewhere down the line, and it is already happening. Advertising conference mein, it's already happening. That can we only survive supporting a person who calls 30 people on his channel and shouting at them? Can we survive supporting him? This has already started in advertising circles. Yes. So the fact is, it is a matter of time. It's a matter of time when Arfa will get enough money to start her Wire TV, and Ashok can buy, the brand new car that he always wanted. You see, it's a matter of time. No, seriously, it's a matter of time. It's just another a few years. It will.
Okay.
The change will happen.
Okay, I'm hammered.
I hope in between we don't land up in jail or be killed before that we get that money.
Arfa, I'll tell you something. The more we get surveys, the more we get raided, the more we are going to get pressurized, the more challenges we are facing, the more community you are building, the stronger community you are building. If I was in BJP, I would have told the guys that, listen, mat karo yaar ye. You're making, I think, America has started something called a SPAT, which is basically a crowdfunding system. It's a IPO kind of to support digital media in America. So you'll see a lot of American digital media in the next 2 years because they're spending a lot of money. They're encouraging this industry. Now let's come to India. India, what they're doing is our government is also actually encouraging us, in a way. Yeah, every day we are raided. Every day we have been facing challenges. What's going to happen is it's only going to help us to form our own audience, and your audience are going to get stronger and stronger. Trust me on this.
And News Laundry is a very good example of that. 2 days after they're being surveyed, they got 14 lakhs worth of subscription. I read that tweet from News Laundry, which is a very, very good development, given the fact that it's becoming a badge of honor. So that's also very good. fascinating discussion. I'm being hammered because we are completely out of time here. So Media Rumble folks, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. Guys who are watching us on YouTube, please support more of YouTube. It's not about boycotting any mainstream media. It is just watching good media, watching good journalism, spreading good journalism. वो हो रहा है journalism. आपको देखना है, आपको शेयर करना है, आपको आगे ले जाना है. बॉयकॉट और नारेबाजी से कोई काम नहीं चलेगा. मेनस्ट्रीम मीडिया को अपना चलने दो, डिजिटल जो अपना काम कर रहा है वो करने दो.